I was at Carolina Power and Light for 17 years, and my last role there, I was area manager for Fayetteville. We had an environmental goal to meet. So the others in the Carolinas were doing grinding of the greens. So Ernest and I talked about getting that done for Fayetteville. We felt, like we should do something. The trees were filling up the landfill, and it was a proven service project around, probably more than the Carolinas, and we felt like it was something that we wanted to do in Fayetteville. I had some friends at PwC, so I called over to PwC and I talked with Jim Martin. Jim Martin at the time was over the electric division. And so with Jim, and then we had to call the city of Fayetteville to coordinate picking up the trees. And so once we did that, we also talked to the botanical gardens because they were very receptive of the idea because they needed the mulch. So our first grinding of the greens was on the campus of the Botanical Gardens, and that was before it looks like it does today. It was in its infancy back then 25 years ago.
Back in 1993, I was with Hodges Associates, and I still am, and we were brought into this the very first year. Back then you didn't have all the options for promoting like you do now. There was no social media, there was no website, no newsletter. We did it all with interviews, live interviews on the radio. We had a small newspaper budget and a small radio budget, and that was the extent of it. And we depended very heavily on radio interviews, and I think PwC still does do that, but back then it was crucial, and you had to keep all the news people happy with you. The first time was very exciting. The employees were excited, and I think even back then they started with "Gentlemen, start your engines." One of the early ones that was snowing, and we had a young intern from WTVD actually came out there to cover it, and she did not realize she lost her microphone. It was in the pile of trees, and the guys found it before they ground it up. She was quite relieved.
I've been volunteering for 24 years. This is PwC's 25th event, but it is my 24th. My first grinding of the greens was probably the most memorable, and I can't believe I came back. I got there and the piles were like 10 to 12 feet tall, and it had just snowed or we had an ice storm before. And me and another co-worker climbed to the top of the mound, and it was our job to throw the trees down to the bottom. It was so cold, but we made it. It was probably one of the longest grinding of the greens that we had. But again, I can't believe I came back, but I really enjoy it.
Well, we learned an awful lot from the first time. Back then, the trees were pushed into a pile with bulldozers, and so they were hard to pick up. Also, we tried to fill the trucks with mulch. We chipped it and the mulch went into the back of trucks, and then we drove the trucks down into a lower area of the Botanical Gardens where they wanted to place the mulch. It was not a good idea because it was wet, so the trucks got stuck. So we learned a lot after the first time, and now it's really a well-oiled machine now. You can do the grinding of the greens in less than 2 hours.
Some funny things that have shown up over the years where people tried to recycle a metal wreath, a wreath with a metal wire frame on it, and even trees coming in with tree stands attached. And I think one year there was even an artificial tree. They've found ornaments over the years, and one particular year, maybe 3 years ago, the one they found seemed to be a very important ornament, and PwC went that extra mile and found out who it belonged to and got it back to them. I think over the years, you have many of the same volunteers come back, and they seem real excited about it. And I know it's not just the coffee and donuts.
I love volunteering for the grinding of the greens because it's my way of giving back. I help out the environment, and it helps out the community. I love working with people in other departments. I love to see actually if they're up for the challenge, because it can be a little physical, some of the work that's required. It just depends on how much you want to put into it. We have a little challenge, an unspoken challenge among us, the chippers, to see what pile finishes first. And so we're all trying to beat the person next to you. And it can really be challenging, but it depends on how much you want to put into it. I'm really looking forward to the 25th anniversary, and I hope to be back even after I retire from PwC.
I'm very proud to have been involved in this event from the very beginning. I think it's been a good thing for Fayetteville. It's been a good thing for the city, good thing for PwC and CP&L and the garden and the Botanical Garden.
It's a win for our community. I think the citizens are participating. You know, they expect it, and then it helps the Botanical Gardens as well.